Good morning, Chair. Can you see and hear me?
Yes. Oh,
Yes, I can, thank you. Good morning, Mrs. Longley.
Hello.
Yes, Mrs. Long, I think we can hear you. Can you just speak a little louder, or can your volume be turned
Hello.
up? Yes. Can everybody in the room hear? If I could ask you to affirm, and we'll test the volume.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. If you'd like to repeat after me, I do solemnly,
I do solemnly,
sincerely
sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you give your full name, please?
My name's Barbara Longley.
Thank you. Ms. Longley, you have produced two statements in this inquiry. Do you have them in front of you?
Yes, I should do.
Thank you.
It's witness statements. Yes.
Thank you. The first is dated the 12th of September 2022.
Yes.
Could I ask you to have a look at the final page, page 6? And is that your signature
Yes,
at the
it
end of the
is.
statement? Thank you very much. And is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. And your second witness statement is dated the 8th of February of this year. Could I ask you again to turn to the final substantive page? That's page 11. And just confirm that that's your
Yeah.
signature.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. For the purpose of the transcript, those statements are WITN 045000100 and WITN 045000200. Ms. Longley, those two statements will go into evidence and they'll be published on the inquiry's website. So the questions that I'll ask you will be supplementary and add to that, although I'll cover a little bit of the same ground. First of all, thank you very much for attending the inquiry today. I'm going to begin by asking you about your background. You joined ICL Retail in the 1980s, is that right?
That's correct.
And you joined the SSC, the Software Support Centre, in January 1998 as SSC Coordinator.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Now, SSC Coordinator sounds like a very grand title, but I think you've said in your witness statement it was a clerical role, is that right?
Mainly, yes.
Can you tell us in broad terms what that involved?
Doing the rotas, keeping annual leave, sick leave, making sure that anything like the air conditioning was working, photocopiers working, and then of course the calls, just general clerical stuff, stationery, keep maintaining the stationery cupboard.
Thank you. You said that one of your roles involved the calls. I'm being told that people can't hear in this room. A message has gone to RTS, the providers, to try and turn up your volume. Sorry, you won't be aware of this issue. But at the moment, it's just a few of us who can hear you. On the plus side, I should say we have plenty of time. Thank you. We'll try again. You joined the SSC before what we know as the national rollout of Horizon, the 1999-2000 period. You don't recall, I think, specifically the rollout of Horizon. Is that correct?
No, I didn't.
But presumably you were aware when you joined that you were in the early days of Horizon.
I don't know. I can't remember whether I did read something or not. I did print something out when I went for my interview with Mick, but I can't remember what it said.
And you stayed at the SSC until your retirement in 2005.
That's correct.
Can you tell us something about the training that you received for this role?
I went over to the Feltham office where my predecessor was doing the role, and I spent 4 months with her every day, just sat with her and noting what she did, and she'd sort of be instructing me as we went along. So I was sort of learning from her. She was passing all her knowledge on to me. And then after the 4 months, I went back to the office in Bracknell.
Thank you. Can you tell us her name, please?
Hazel Salvat.
Now, presumably, again, Miss Salvat would have had little experience using Horizon in 1998 because it was a new system. Was that something that you were aware of or not?
I think she'd been with the system for a lot longer before I met her. She didn't say too much about what she did before, so I'm not sure what her role was, but she did work on the Horizon system before.
Would it be fair to summarise that when you joined and were trained, you weren't told about this being a brand new system, or you don't recall being told about this being?
No, I don't recall. No, I don't recall being told much about the system.
I'm going to now ask you about error logs, and to help you prepare for today, you've been provided with what are known as pinnacles and peaks.
Yes.
Do you remember those?
Yes.
Yes. Now, you described your role in relation to administrative matters. In broad terms, what was your role in relation to pinnacles and peaks?
The calls would come over from Stevenage help desk and arrive on a stack. Now, either first thing in the morning, the duty technician would have been monitoring and doing pre-scan. I went in about 9 o'clock, and if there was anything urgent, then we'd be dealt with straight away, or somebody might have been dealing with it previously, who'd been phoned through before the call came. And then just throughout the day, I would monitor what was going on, take phone calls sometimes from Stevenage if somebody wanted an update. But basically, I was just copy and pasting information from the calls back into the calls so that everybody could see it, because some people, and I can't remember exactly which people it was, not everybody could see everything in the call. But if I copied and pasted an update showing the progress of the call into the call, then everybody could see it. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. I'm going to take you to the expert report that the inquiry saw in phase 2 of the inquiry. That's EXPG 601. Thank you very much. And could we turn to page 116?
I'll look at the one on the screen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The page after that, please. So the inquiry's expert carried out some analysis, and he refers to what are referred to as PPs. Those are peaks and pinnacles. You appear there, if we could scroll down the page, in the highest number of PPs in the period before the rollout, so 1996 to 2000. Can you tell us why you think your name appears so often in those logs?
I know why my name appears so often, because every call, well, nearly every call that came in would have to pass through my hands, so to speak. Every call that came in, if I dealt with it, I'd be the one to do the pre-scan, which is sort of looking at it, checking it, and assigning it to somebody, and maybe making a change to the title, because the titles came in exactly as spoken to the Horizon people at Stevenage, and they just type it in. So when the call came in, it automatically had a title that was the first conversation held. So I had got the power to change that, to sort of look further into the call and see what the actual problem was and make that the title. And then I'd assign it to one of the technicians to deal with. So every call that came in, there might have been passed through me 2 or 3 times in the day, maybe.
And
Every time I put an update on, then my name would appear on it. So,
and if we look at that list, Lionel Higman, for example, is that somebody you remember at all?
I do remember Lionel mainly from my foreman's training. He was over at Feltham. I can't remember if he came over to Bracknell at any stage.
Do you remember what his role was?
I can't remember exactly, but I think he did something like he would set you up on the system. So you've got a password to get in. I don't really
So
know.
again, more of an administrative role.
I think so. I didn't have a lot to do with him.
Are there any names on that list that's on the screen at the moment that stand out for you in your recollection?
People that I know. Richard Coleman, who left to become a priest. John Simpkins sat behind me. Diane Rose sat to the side of me.
And they were engineers, were they?
Oh, yeah, the technicians.
Technicians.
Paul Steed, he was a technician. He left. Tom Moran, name, and Eric Jennings. I don't know. I'll carry on down. Mike Croshaw was one of the technicians on the other side of the floor. Pat Carroll was on the other side of the floor. Steve Warwick, I think he was one of the big bosses that resided upstairs. I didn't have much to do with him at all.
Thank you very much. Let's look at our first pinnacle. It's FUJ 000100355.
I'll look at it on the screen.
Thank you. This is from January 1998, and it says there, about halfway down, it says, I've set up privilege plus access for Barbara Longley. I think you've said in your first statement that that probably gave you access to the call logging system. Is that right?
Yes, this is the 4 months when I joined over at Feltham. So I had to be set up on the system because I was a new joiner.
So does that give an indication as to when you started, the 23rd
Yes,
of January?
that's how I worked out where I started. It was from January to April. Because I think on some of these ones, 1998, you might see Hazel's name on them. So everything on any call that was 1998, those first 4 months, would not have been my words. So it might have been dictated by Hazel or somebody else. Because I wasn't fully trained then, so I wasn't able to be let loose on the calls, so to speak.
And am I right in saying you can't recall exactly what privilege plus meant, but you had some abilities to, for example, add and amend entries in the logs?
Yes, I presume it means that I can do extra things on the calls. I've not seen that bit. I didn't see that when I was working, as far as I can tell. I don't remember seeing privilege plus.
Thank you, that can come down.
It'd only be a guess if I said anything.
Thank you. I want to ask you about how calls were assigned. You've addressed that at paragraph 7 of your second witness statement, but I want to take you through step by step. The first step, it seems, was that the Horizon Help Desk would put calls on your stack, and you've talked about a stack. Can you just tell us again, what is a stack? Or what's a stack?
It's just a list. It's like your mailbox with your mails coming in. You've got a list of calls rather than a list of emails. And it's all set out, got pinnacle number, description, I think at the top, what role, not role out.
And those came in from what we know as the Horizon System Help Desk, is that right?
They came over from the Stevenage Help Desk.
And can you tell us, did you have a view at the time, or looking back, do you have a view as to whether those calls were filtered appropriately to you?
No, I just take them as they've come over, and I don't know what happened to them before then. unless someone had specifically typed in there what they'd done.
Do you recall any conversations with any colleagues that there are too many coming over from the help desk, too few coming from the help desk, or anything?
Like that. No.
The second step is that you would allocate calls to an SSC technician. How would you know which technician to allocate calls to?
Sometimes the clue was in the actual problem. I had a sort of idea that after 4 months, who did what. There were sort of like keywords, like it was, I think, is it AS? It's be a communications problem. You know, it's sort of like a phone problem or something. Is it
ASDL, was that?
I think so, yes, something like that. It would go to a technician who was dealing with that sort of thing. Basically, it was a technician or technicians that dealt with that particular problem. And over time, you'd learn. If it wasn't that person, they would either say, oh no, that is wrong, give it to somebody else when I was first starting out. So there wasn't any chance that I would give it to the wrong person and it'd stay with the wrong person.
Was
But
there
that would only be straight away when I was new at it, sort of thing.
Was there a list, was there a manual of some sort that told you who specialised in particular areas, or was that just something that you were expected to know?
I was expected to know and learn as I went along.
You've said in your statement that some of the engineers were interested in particular problems.
Oh yes, particularly if it was one that come over before I got into work, because I quite often would phone up and they'd have conversations with the help desk. Somebody might say, there's a call on the stack, can I have that? Because I did something similar the other week, or I know a little bit about that one, could I have it please? Some of the technicians could do sort of multitasking, you know, they knew various other subjects besides their specific subject.
And how would you familiarise yourself with who was interested in what?
If they said they were interested in it or had done something similar, then they'd get the call. Because it made sense if they knew about the call for them to carry on, and they wouldn't have to go and start the research all over again.
Can you tell us what would happen when, for example, a new engineer joined, a new technician joined? How would you familiarise yourself with their particular interest or speciality?
I think everyone who joined in the technicians had a mentor, and they would sit with the mentor. So obviously, whoever the mentor was, their specialist subject would be passing on to the new person. So that would mean that the new person would be doing the same subject as their mentor.
Are you able to assist us in any way whether there was a turnover in those technicians? Did they come and go? Were there some that were constant?
It varied. We had some that have been there for years, and there'd be some that stayed sort of probably a year.
Are there any that you recall that were particularly experienced and knowledgeable?
Probably the ones that have been there the longest, sort of like Steve Parker, John Simpkins, Pat Carroll. Paul Steed had been there a long time.
Sorry, could you just say that name again for the transcriber?
Paul Steed.
Paul Steed.
He was right at the beginning.
Thank you. We may see some names as we go through documents, and if any stand out to you that you recall being of particular experience or particular knowledge, then do feel free to say.
As far as being experienced and being able to do the job well, that would not be for me to say, because that would go into their appraisal. Their manager would be the one who would know more than me.
Certainly, but if you were allocating calls to particular people because you had in mind that they were particularly experienced in something or had a particular knowledge, then please do say, if you can, where we come across those names.
Okay.
Thank you. You've spoken about the room, and you've said that some people sat behind you, some people sat across the room, some people were on different floors. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what the setup was?
Upstairs, was top management, well, people above Nick, above the manager, the top managers, and a few other types. I don't really know. We didn't go up there very often. The floor was divided, one side of the building and the other side, and people tended to sort of I just had sort of like John and Diane next to me, and then Steve was over the way.
And were they sitting in accordance with any particular specialism? Was there a particular reason why those technicians were near
No,
you?
not with the technicians, no. There were other sort of little groups that came in from time to time. We had some people come over occasionally from Belfast. I can't remember what they did, but they always sat in one area. And then I think there was some test people. They all sat in one area, people, test equipment people. They were away from us down the other end of the floor. Trying to think now. I think the technicians more or less were just sort of spaced around in the middle of the building.
Were you aware of them sharing their own knowledge between themselves of things like bugs, errors and defects in Horizon?
Oh yes, everybody helped everybody. I don't think people kept their stuff to themselves. I think if somebody could help somebody, they would.
Did they specialise in particular bugs, errors or defects, for example, or was there a generalised sense of knowledge relating to the Horizon system, or a base level knowledge of bugs, errors and defects?
I would say probably general. 'Cause most people could step in if needed to help out.
Are you able to give us any examples of where a particular problem had to go to a particular engineer? Is there anything that you can recollect?
Not specifically, no.
You've said that you also used key terms to work out who to approach, and you, I think, mentioned one, maybe ADSL or something like that. Are you able to assist us with that, how you became familiar with those key terms?
Just from seeing them in the calls and knowing that those words meant that it was a communication problem. So I gave it to the person who was dealing with that.
It's right to say that you didn't have any expertise in technical matters.
No. No, I'd not heard about the Horizon when I joined. It was all a mystery to me when I joined.
The third step in the allocation process, once you had allocated to a particular engineer, was that you would update the calls, you've said in your statement, as instructed. Who would instruct you in relation to updating the pinnacles or peaks?
Do you mean when they came in first of all, or in progress when, say, an engineer had done something?
Either or both.
Either. I was able to, as I say, change the title. I could correct the spelling, and I was usually told. I'm trying to think what it was called now. If it was a new batch of software that had been sent down to the post office overnight, say, it had a different, I can't think of the word.
A release? A release?
Yes, a release. I could change that. They tell me all calls coming in from now on are going to be this release, so change that on the call. Thank you for helping me out on that.
Did that, to the best of your recollection, lead to a call being closed if there had been a release? Or did it lead to something else?
No, it'd be dealt with the same way. It'd just be a call that was being dealt with a different release from, say, a previous one the week before or something, before the roll.
So would you update all cases that related to a particular release?
If I was told that all the calls coming in with this new release, then I would. I'd change it.
And who would tell you?
Probably Mick Peach.
Was he your manager or?
Yes, he was the manager
Yes.
of the SSC.
I'm going to take you through some logs to see if you can assist the chair. Can we start with FUJ 000100388?
Is that one on the screen?
Yes, so this is a pinnacle. It's an early pinnacle dating back to 1998, January 1998. And the summary at the top there is PM, Postmaster, has run a weekly report and one payment is missing. So it relates to a missing payment. If we start with the substantive activities that are logged there, it says the user customer call. Would that information from a customer call be put in by yourself and your colleagues in a similar position, or would it be would it appear there from the help desk, for example? We can talk in general terms. It doesn't have to be about this particular pinnacle, but where we see information, we'll come in subsequent pinnacles and peaks to information from a customer call. Would you input the customer call information, or would that already appear before you got to it?
Looks like it's been put in already, I think, looking at it.
I mean, this may not be the best example because I think this is one of those early pinnacles where
It said someone's rung the PM. I didn't have any contact with the PM at all. So obviously, that might have been John did that, John Simpkins. I can't see that I did anything. I think it.
if we turn over the page, we see your predecessor's name, Hazel Salvat, becoming involved on the 22nd of January.
Yes. So she's asking Paul. Would that have been Paulstein?
Typically in these pinnacles and peaks, what we'd see is a customer call and then followed by further logs. And really my question is, the information that relates to customer calls, is that information that you at the SSC would put in, or is that something that would already appear before your involvement?
Which bit is the call log? Are you talking about something that's been put in?
The entries before, for example, Miss Salvat's name, where it says customer call.
Customer opened. That would be from Stevenage. That would be opened by Stevenage, I think.
Thank you.
Customer open date. Customer would be the post office person phoning in, I presume.
And I think you said that you didn't have any contact with the sub-postmasters.
No, they didn't have my phone number. They wouldn't ring me, but the technicians could. The technicians could contact the postmaster, but I had no contact with them.
During your time as SSC coordinator, do you recall at any time speaking to sub-postmasters or their managers or assistants?
Only about twice, when a little group came over and they came to my desk to sign in the visitors book, and then it would only be sort of general chit chat, you know, sort of where's the coffee machine and did you have a nice journey? Nothing about work or anything like that. They sent very occasionally. I only remember 2 lots coming over.
Do you remember what kind of a group was it? Was it an organised group such as the NFSP, or was it just a
It was just a little group of people. I didn't know who they were or anything. I just knew that they worked for the post office.
Thank you. Could we turn to page 5 of this document? And you become involved at this stage. You're named for the first time on the 26th of January of 1998.
Yes.
Now, as I say, this isn't the best of pinnacles because this one seems to be a little bit out of order. Some of the wording is out of order. But if we look at the very bottom, it says, having spoken to Margaret Brunton / Nelson Village SPS, she is. Now, I think if we go 2 up it says happy for this to be closed. That might be a single line, suggesting that the customer is happy for the call to be closed. If we look at the customer name at the top, it has Margaret Brunton / Nelson. Where it says have spoken to, so it has your name as the person entering the information.
I wouldn't have spoken to a postmaster. I don't know whether Hazel did, because this was all done under supervision. She'd have got me sort of typing stuff in to get used to typing the stuff in, the responses and doing the cut and paste. And the wording looks more like her wording than what I would have probably put.
So from your involvement, if we see the word such as have spoken to and it is followed by a customer name, that wouldn't signify that you in any way spoke to the customer, because that wasn't part of your job.
No, I never spoke to. There might have been something. Was there anything further up that I could have copied? Maybe. Doesn't look like it, does it?
If we look at the summary and where it refers to a missing payment, this was very early in your job in the SSC. Do you remember issues such as missing payments being issues that came across your desk?
I think there would be calls about missing payments, but I don't remember any in particular. It's like this one, I'd only been probably in the job about a week or two, 26th of the 1st.
Can you give us an indication? Let's take missing payments as a topic. Is that something that would have come across your desk rarely, often, sometimes? Is it something you recall?
I can't recall how many times, no, to be honest.
Is it a familiar phrase, missing payments?
Yes, there would have been calls for missing payments, but I can't remember anything much about them.
Let's move on to the year 2000. Can we look at FUJ 3086585? Thank you. We're now moving on to the Peak system. So this is the system that followed the Pinnacle system. And it says that there in the summary, the PM, the postmaster or mistress, is having problems rolling the office over. Now again, if we talk about an indication of how often, a lot, sometimes, rarely, is that a kind of issue that would crop up?
I think it would crop up quite often. I can't say how many times.
And let's look at the information customer call. So this is a different format now, but we're looking at information that's provided. It says user customer call. Do you recall who would have inputted that information? I'll read you the first part. It says, the PM is having problems rolling the office over. There are figures missing from the cash account, which is one person entire work. Advice, got the PM to check all the stock unit, and they are in cash accounting period 06. Got the PM.
That sounds very much like it was inputted by Stevenage Horizon help desk.
Yeah, so that's coming in from the help. That's information
Yes.
you think that has been provided by the help desk that predates your involvement.
I believe so, yes. It sounds like they've been in contact with the PM and been trying a few things or giving advice.
And the advice there is advice that the help desk had given.
Yes.
Thank you. And it's I'll just carry on a little bit. It says, got the PM to try and get a trial cash account. It says balancing error, receipts and payments do not match. Investigate the error. The error may be corrected using the reversal function.
That's also sounds like it's come from the Horizon help desk at Stevenage.
Thank you. And receipts and payments do not match. Again, are you able to assist us in how often? You don't need to give me an exact number, but was it a lot, sometimes, rarely, that those kinds of issues would come across?
I say they come over fairly often. Sounds a very familiar sort of thing.
Thank you. And if we scroll down about halfway, it says AL1. It's on the right-hand side. Perhaps this could be highlighted if
Her work is missing, that one.
yes, exactly. Her work is missing from the CA, I think, is cash account. When she did a balance snapshot, she was £9,000 over, and all her stock is showing as minus.
That comes from Stevenage, that little update.
And then you have the advice below, which says, I asked caller to do a reprint of the final balance for SUDD to see what the figures look like. Everything is minus of what she sold. I think that she rolled over with nothing in her stock and everything went as an over. Advise caller to roll over the SU into the next BP and declare stock stamps and cash. Again, so is it your evidence that that is likely to have been advice from the help desk?
Yes, it sounds like they tried something else with them, and that's the result.
Thank you. And then at the very bottom of this page, there's another piece of advice there, and it says, advise to go into stock bal and declare stock, then stamps, then cash, advised to then roll over XXX, then to transfer the stocks from XXX to DD, and then roll over office, PM OK to do this. And at the bottom, it has repeat call, and it says caller has rung back again. She's rolled over SU XXX over with all the stock missing from the clerk's SU. This is the incorrect. It seems so that maybe this is incorrect. Caller should never have been advised to do this. If my update had been read, and when she rang in before, it would have been clear that the caller rolled over DDSU with no stock in it. Everything was zero, and then she started serving in cash accounting period 06 with no stock, maybe thus creating the minus figures. By creating a correctional SU in cash accounting period 05 and putting the figures in showing as a minus from cash accounting period 06, it will now roll with cap 06 figures. If anything, they should never have added stock from this cap. They should have added stock from the last cap. This faulty advice has caused even more trouble, and the PM has not rolled XXX over. Is this kind of discussion from within the help desk itself something that would crop up that you recall?
That sounds rather unusual, because someone's criticising somebody for not doing something correctly, the way I've just read it. I'm not sure who actually did that, whether it was the help desk or a technician. It doesn't have a technician's name against it, so I presume that somebody is telling the help desk that they gave the wrong advice, but I can't see from the call who that was.
And is that something that you would come across? Do you recall?
No, that sounds rather unusual, that you wanted to do the wrong thing. I've not seen that.
Did you find that the help desk advice in general to be helpful, unhelpful, something else?
I don't know. I wouldn't know, because it would be technical. It would be someone like the technician would know.
And is this history that's been entered here, is that something that you would read through before assigning to a technician, for example?
Usually, is my name on this one?
Yes, if we could turn to page 5 and we'll look at your first involvement.
No, I just wondered in case it was one of the times I wasn't there, perhaps, somebody else was preceding.
So we have your name, the 3rd of May 2000, about halfway down this page, thank you. And you assign it to John Simpkins. Perhaps if we could use this as an example, are you able, in relation to this specific case or just in general terms, to tell us how it is that you would assign something like this to John Simpkins? I mean, for example, how would you know that it was John Simpkins who should deal with this kind of a call? it may assist to look at the log below where he then assigns it to EPOS development. Okay. So we may have lost Mr. Longley. At the moment, we're only seeing the document on screen.
All right. Can you hear me, Miss Longley? Doesn't sound like, does it? It doesn't sound as if you still have her.
Perhaps we could take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, by all means.
So we appear to be having a little bit of difficulty with the witness's internet connection. Could I suggest that we take our 15-minute break now? We will, I only have a maximum of 1 hour of further questions, and we will be certainly finished before lunchtime.
Yeah, certainly, by all means. So what is the time now?
It is now 10 to 11.
So 11, yeah?
Thank you very much.
Bye.
So we're still having some difficulty with the internet connection. Could we take 15 more minutes? As I say, the witness will not be very much longer once she has been reconnected.
Well, if you think that's fruitful, yes. But I'm getting a bit sort of uneasy about everybody being in a state of not knowing what's going to happen, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
I mean, take 15 minutes now, but otherwise, I suggest that you and the co-participants take stock about how crucial oral evidence is in this case, given that a manager is giving evidence shortly. But in any event, if it is important, whether it's just better to adjourn until 2 o'clock so everybody knows where they are, sort of thing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Let me know in 15 minutes what you think, yeah?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we can see you and we can now see Ms. Longley as well.
Yeah.
Can you both hear and see me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
And Ms. Longley, can you hear and see me?
It's a bit faint. I think somebody's trying to sort it out for me.
We can see somebody in the corner of your screen.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, perhaps if I start with a question and we'll see if it's loud enough for you.
Okay, that's better now.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, we were on document FUJ 000865585, and we were on page 5 of that document. And the question was, you there have allocated this matter to John Simpkins. Are you able to tell us, using this as an example, how it might be that something was allocated to John Simpkins? As in, who would that decision have come from? And what was the process by which Mr. Simpkins would have been selected to deal with that particular issue?
I can't see any clues at the moment.
If we go down, and I'll take you through a few more entries, and don't worry if you're not able to assist us with that question. But if we go down, we then have John Simpkins transferring it to EPOS Dev. I think that's EPOS Development. Is that a team that you recall?
Vaguely, yes. That'd be counter issues, EPOS, wouldn't it?
Thank you. And then if we have a look further down, we have your name again, new evidence added, complete message store by John Simpkins in EDSC. And then we have customer call, and it says Carl Motion chasing this call for an update. Do you remember somebody called Carl Motion at all?
Not at all, no. Maybe he was on the Horizon Help Desk.
And how about Paul Steed? Paul Steed.
He's a technician. He was a technician.
So tried Paul Steed, but unavailable. And it says there voiced Barbara Longley for update on this call. Can you assist us? We see that in a few occasions, voiced Barbara Longley. What might that
Yes,
mean?
that would be the Horizon Help Desk giving me a phone call, asking me if there was any updates. And I'd look, and if there were, I would cut and paste them back into the call.
Thank you. And then the one below...
Or chase up possibly.
We have again voiced through Barbara Longley as postmaster or mistress needs to know what is happening.
Yes, that would definitely be Stevenage Help Desk, because they're the only ones who can speak to the PM. The PM would phone them up. If you look at the call, it's sort of clear that the postmaster obviously phoned into the help desk, and then they chased me up, see if I'd got any developments on it.
Thank you. And if we go over the page, there's another entry relating to the help desk phoning. At the top there, it says, HSH rang to say that NBSC are chasing for an update on this call, have informed them that call currently with EPOS development team. Was part of your role as a liaison between the technicians and the help desk?
Yes, I was sort of approached for any information on any of the calls, because as I say, not everybody could see every part of the call and every update. So they would either phone up and ask me if I knew, and I'd look at the call, and then if there was an update, I would cut and paste it into the call. If not, I'd probably go around to the technician's desk and ask him, and then they'd probably put an update on, and then I'd cut and paste that into it.
Did you form a view at any point as to the abilities of the help desk, their competence, their abilities to assist?
No, they always seemed very helpful to me. They were sort of very nice sort of people. I actually went over there to Stevenage once, and they seemed quite efficient. As for the technical information they were giving out and things like that, I wouldn't know. But I don't think there were any complaints about them.
Would they indicate to you, on a personal level, the effect that certain issues were having on sub-postmasters?
No, I don't think so.
If we look down at number, about halfway down the page, 16th of May at 4:11 p.m.
Right.
It says there, R&M has reported a problem whereby the transactions carried out on the counter are being lost from SUTT. Stock was balanced on Tuesday, and it was noticed that there was a £6,343 surplus discrepancy. The counter daily and weekly reports were showing zero. The R&M put the 6,000 figure into the suspense account. The discrepancy has now doubled and is showing a £12,000 surplus. Scrolling down to the entry from Steve Warwick about halfway down, he says there, the call needs to be looked at in detail by the EPOS team in order to establish why the system appears to have failed to locate any transactions for this stock unit in cash accounting period 5. Do you recall any particular issues relating to the EPOS system and EPOS team?
Nothing in particular, no.
If we scroll over to the next page and about halfway down the next page, your name appears again, and I think you assign it to John Simpkins.
I think on that previous thing there had been issues occasionally where a fault doubled up when something was done. It duplicated it, so it was twice the amount, I think.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. And do you recall that happening sometimes, often?
Just sometimes. I saw it more than once, I think. And I do sort of vaguely remember that problem, that sometimes someone would do something, instead of curing it, it would make it double the fault.
Can we look over to the final page, page 8, and there's a note there from Mr. Simpkins. We're now in July, so this log starts in April.
Oh, right.
And he says, this is another instance of, and gives the reference number, where data server trees have failed to build. This has now been fixed in CI4. That's, we know, a release. And in conjunction with, and there's a reference there, where the data tree rebuild is minimized to 2 attempts instead of 4, should return and abort right back up to the user to retry the balancing process. Etc. Instances where this can potentially occur is, for example, if the repost service has stopped/failed/unable to complete an IO request issued, etc. Are you able to assist us in terms of length of time? We're now in July. The issue started in April. Was it common to your recollection that some issues can take months to resolve?
I don't know about months, but not everything was done sort of immediately. Some things are obviously more difficult to fathom out than others and to cure. So I don't know. I can't tell. I've got no sort of information. I can't think of any information, any reports or anything that would probably have shown you that there were long times for curing something.
I'm going to move on to another one. It's the summer of 2001. Can we look at poll 000287443, please? Thank you. This is another peak, and the summary there is master call for phantom transactions. Can you assist us at all as how something becomes a master call, or what that term meant?
I can only guess. I don't recall, but I would imagine that it was one call that's referred back to. This is me guessing. One call referred back to for a certain problem, a master call. I may be wrong, but that's what I was thinking it probably could be.
And phantom transactions, is that something that you recall at all?
Yes, I think that was quite a common one.
I mean, you referred earlier in your evidence to using certain key terms and assigning to certain individuals. Was phantom transactions one of those key terms?
I don't know whether that might have been one that was pretty general and lots of people could have dealt with.
Is it something that you recall being spoken about a lot?
It was one I remember because it's a funny name, phantom transactions. It's just stuck in my mind, that one.
I'm going to take you through
Yeah, I'm looking at
this
it.
log. So we have there the customer call. So we've established that these are likely to have come from the help desk. And it says their new complaint, call as previous, closed without permission from the postmaster. Information, postmaster wishes to complain, it says must be complain about ongoing system problems, and it gives a reference. And it says the postmaster was under the impression correctly that it could only be closed with his permission. It would appear Kai Barnes, is that a name you recall at all?
No.
Gave authorization to close that call. Postmaster very unhappy about this. And if we scroll down to information, PM is extremely unhappy about the problems with his counters. He says he has had to pay out over £1,500 in losses that are due to these problems. He's informed Pockle they can suspend him because he's refusing to make good any further losses. PM wants a face-to-face meeting with somebody in authority from Pathway/Pockle to discuss the issues. PM feels very strongly about this and says he's willing to take Pockle to a tribunal/court because of the stress he's suffered because of the problems. Now, we discussed earlier that you were the help desk's point of contact within the SSC. You liaised with the help desk. Did they in any way give you an insight into the strength of feelings amongst postmasters experiencing these kinds of issues?
No, that one, I don't even recall anything like that. That, at the moment, seems like the first time I've actually seen that. Don't recall that at all.
If we scroll down on this page, it says information, please contact PM to discuss issues. And then it says this call is only to be closed with the express permission of Julian Hall. Is Julian Hall somebody you recall at all?
No, I've not heard that name.
And then it says the system seems to lose transactions and the PM is concerned that for every transaction, that error he notices, there is the probability that there are ones he misses, leading to discrepancies. The PM is at present finding the whole scenario very stressful and is suffering sleepless nights due to these problems. In the light of what has gone on, the PM is prepared to break his contractual obligations with POCL and refuse to pay any more discrepancies and will take legal action if required. Again, the strength of feeling that's set out here, looking back to your years at the SSC, is that the kind of thing that you recall at all being raised with you by the help desk?
No, I don't recall that at all. I mean, I'm sure that I would have taken note of that. Where was my name on this one?
I'll take you to it shortly.
Okay, I'm jumping the gun.
If we stay with this page, I'll just highlight a few more passages from this call. So it says, contacted. I've left a message on Kai Barnes' voicemail as the PM is now complaining about her. I was speaking to her about the last complaint call, and we both feel that this PM is complaining unjustly. She's been in contact with him, and I feel he is complaining because the feedback has been advising it is user error, whereas the PM thinks it is software. Do you recall any disputes between, say, the help desk and postmasters as to whether something was user error or is software related?
No. Either I've forgotten or I never sort of saw it. Doesn't ring any bells with me at all. Sort of as if I've read this for the first time.
The final passage that I'll read on this page, it says, contacted. As I was on the phone to the PM, he advised that 3 first-class stamps that were on the screen just dropped off. PM had 3 first-class stamps and other stamps for 30p. When the other stamps, 30p, went on, the first-class stamps disappeared, etc. Over the page, please, there's another customer call entry at the bottom of the page. The 18th of April, it says, PM rang to say that he has had the keyboard and screen replaced today. The system is still playing up in that the screen is hanging in the middle of transactions. PM did transaction but left office for 1 hour. When he came back, the monitor had 141 first-class stamps on screen totaling £38.07. PM reports that the F1 key does not appear to be faulty. And if we go over to that page, let's just look at that second entry. It says, information, I've been advised that the problem may be due to an environmental issue and may be investigated as such. So we've gone now, at the beginning we had it being attributed to user error, the PM being told that it's user error and him thinking it was software. We then have these transactions that have appeared on screen and he's been advised that it may be due to environmental issues. If we scroll down just to show these are customer calls, that your name has not yet appeared. If we keep on scrolling down to page 4, Thank you. There is an entry there that says, it's near the bottom of this page, it says PM would like to add to the current complaint that transactions are currently appearing and disappearing on screen, and also that the PM's counterpointer has not been working either. And if we scroll down, it says about halfway down, it says information, PM feels that the system is unreliable, PM cannot trust this system. Just pausing there, is that a complaint that you recall receiving from postmasters or recall reading in the customer call log about complaints that the system is unreliable?
I've not seen that on a call, no. I don't remember seeing anything like that on a call.
And then information, PM wishes to speak to someone face to face and is fed up with things being passed back and forth to and from different departments and nothing ever appearing from this. PM is willing to travel if he has to in order to speak to someone face to face. Over the page. Could we go about 3/4 of the way down? We have a reference to a ROMEC engineer. Thank you, yes. PM said when a ROMEC engineer was on site yesterday to replace the cable connecting the two counters, he found the cable has always been there, was faulty, and that the comms were sometimes unavailable between the two counters. Engineer replaced the faulty cable with another one from a different system. And then at the bottom, it has a section beginning with the word information. It says, Kai Barnes has called in. I'm unsure as to what to do with this call now. ROMEC have been on site and state that they've actually seen the phantom transactions. So it's not just the PM's word now. They fitted suppressors to the kit, but the PM is still having problems. As yet, there have been no reoccurrences to the phantom transactions, but there still may be problems. Contacted Pat Carroll for guidance. He advised to pass call over.
So somebody obviously phoned Pat, and Pat said pass the call over. Pat was one of the technicians, Pat Carroll.
And that's pass it over to the SSC, is it?
Yeah, that's what I get. That's what
Thank
that
you.
means.
Because if we scroll over to the next page, this is where your name appears for the first time. So we have the customer call on the third box that says PM contacting with further problems to add to call. Clark was having problems selling a BT Cellnet card. Every time it was pressed on screen, a £10 orange card appeared. PM has since had to recalibrate the screen and is now working, but feels this is part of the ongoing problem. And then we have your entry there, or certainly your name being entered there. Can you assist us then how that would have reached you?
All right, so it came back to Pat. Trying to work this one out.
I mean, I can ask in this way. We've seen something being attributed to user error. We've then seen reference to possible environmental issue. We've read about a faulty cable. We've read about phantom transactions being seen by the cable engineer.
There's still a problem.
Still a problem, and we've also seen the sub-postmaster feeling that they've been passed back and forward.
Yes.
In those kinds of circumstances, how would you know which engineer or which technician to allocate this kind of a case to?
Do you mean in the first instance or from this point in the call?
Either.
I would think that probably it would have been one of the counter technicians. It sounds like a counter problem to start with, and then it's sort of gone on to various different things, sort of like cables and things, aren't they, hardware?
Yes.
Or comms maybe. And now it's gone back to sort of counter stuff again going wrong. So I'd probably give it to somebody who deals with counters, and it looks like it's been given to Pat, who's then closed it.
And can you assist us? Who was Patrick Carroll?
He was a technician. I can't remember what he specialised in now. I think he was pretty general purpose. He knew a lot about everything, I think. I can't tell you what his specialist subject was, but I think he was expert at quite a lot of things.
And would you have selected him because you knew him as a generalist, because you knew that he was had particular knowledge, or was it just
Sorry,
person that
I
was
don't know. If I could go back in time and know what he actually did, I might have been giving it him deliberately, or I might have been giving it to him because he dealt with it before. As you can see, his name's on it from dealing with it before.
Can we go to page 8 now, on the bottom of page 8?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. If we could scroll to the very bottom entry. Thank you. It says, Becky from Manchester. So this is has your name, and it says Becky from Manchester says PM has phoned in, as has more ghost transactions, the same as before. Do you recall who Becky from Manchester was, or who they might be?
I'm not sure whether someone vaguely telling me, whether it was when I was discussing with my solicitors or something months ago. I didn't realise that, or I'd forgotten that there was people up in Manchester, that there was some other sort of office up in Manchester, and Becky was obviously there. And I still can't remember what they did in Manchester, but obviously Becky worked there, and it looks, I think if this is the right call, that she was passing messages down to me. I was copying and pasting her information into the calls, and then pasting what our technicians were saying back to her as a sort of go-between.
So would this likely be a note of a conversation that you personally had?
Becky from Manchester was.
Did you ever have conversations with, say, the NBSC, the Post Office's own support centre?
No, I've not heard of that. Excuse me. No, I didn't. I only spoke to people within the Fujitsu side of things. I never spoke to the PMs or anybody outside.
So it's likely that Becky from Manchester is somebody from Fujitsu?
I would have thought so. I would have thought she was not on the post office side, that she was on our side of things.
And it says there that as the OTI is down, she'll email the transaction details.
Yeah, that's OTI, that's the system, isn't it?
And could we turn over the page to page 9 and look at the second entry there? It says, Mr. Hall called with the information that a child benefit transaction of 3 dockets has also got a certain reference attached to it, etc. And that says, thanks, Becky. So is that a Mr. Hall contacting, again, Becky in Manchester?
Yes. So I presume Mr. Hall's obviously the postmaster, and he's been in touch with Becky. I'm not quite sure why, or what department they are up there. They must be another help desk or something. I can't enlighten you on that, sorry.
And if we look at the entry 2 below, it says, PM called stating that the system is being monitored and at the moment has stopped monitoring, was advised to call and let us know, voiced Barbara Longley and advised to update call. So who would that have been voicing that information to you?
Doesn't say, does it? I would have thought Becky again. She seems to be the one doing all the updates at the moment on this call.
Thank you. And if we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we have an entry from Patrick Carroll there, which says, phantom transactions have not been proven in circumstances which preclude user error. In all cases where these have occurred, a user error-related cause can be attributed to the phenomenon. If we go over the page, I'm therefore closing this call as no fault in product. And there we have it marked no fault in product. So that's two like responded to call type L as category 62, no fault in product. Is this something you're able to assist us with at all? Patrick Carroll has put on the log after that long history that we have been going through that the phantom transactions haven't been proven in circumstances which preclude user error. And in such a case, no fault in product has been attributed to it. Do you recall being instructed or told to use that code in any particular circumstances?
Only if a technician told me to. I'm just wondering about the timing of that, because Pat closed that, didn't he? He actually closed that one. And then the next one's 9:51. I wondered if he did that as a pre-scanner before I got into work. What was the time on the...
If we go back to the page
Yes.
before the bottom, thank you. 9:48.
I probably would have been in work then if I was in that day, yes. It's okay. I wondered if he did it out of hours. Obviously, he closed it himself.
Does
And
that...
didn't come back to me. He didn't use me as an interface on that occasion. He just closed it himself, which he was okay to do.
The instruction to attribute no fault in product, was that something that you were ever told to do, asked to do, told about?
I think on some occasions, if there was a fault that was coming in maybe on a particular day that was more than one or two, I might have been told when that one comes in, can you just close it as no fault in product? But this one's a long elongated call with a lot to it, so I wouldn't have been told that that was one in several that could be just done automatically. So that would have been Pat deciding that it was no fault in product and closing it himself.
Before you closed something as no fault in product, would you be told the circumstances? Would you be told what led to there being no fault in the product?
Usually it would be an update from the technician, which I would cut and paste with the closure no fault in product included in it and close it as that. That would be the norm. And obviously there's not everything is the norm. Like this one, Pat's just closed, and it's a very long call that's been ongoing for a long time.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, actually. You have
It
that...
says 200 hours, doesn't it? I've not noticed that. It says 200 hours.
Are you able to assist us as to whether that was likely to be the total time spent investigating from the beginning, first call to the last, or whether that was something else?
I would imagine that figure is automatically generated. I don't think anybody sits and adds them up, so I'm not sure. It could be, I would have thought from the start of the call to the end, something in the system must be generating that figure.
Thank you. I'm going to look at our final log, and that's FUJ 30s86578. This is a similar period. We have a summary there, continual phantom transactions. We have the first call, the 24th of July 2001. PM reports that he has been having phantom transactions continually for months, and the problem is still persisting. Now, if it was known in the SSC at this time that there were problems with phantom transactions, who would draw the links between the different calls? So let's say Patrick Carroll, we know, is working on that other issue that we've just seen. If this came to you, was there a particular log that would identify particular individuals as dealing with phantom transactions, or was it just relying on your memory?
It would be partly my memory. someone might come round who's been dealing with it before and say, I'll take that one. It's possible that I knew at the time who was dealing with phantom transactions, but I can't recall now. I can't.
But if we think about, I mean, the chair will in due course be thinking about recommendations. In terms of running the SSC,
Yes.
would you have expected to see some sort of record that assigned particular issues to particular people, or would you have expected there to have been some sort of guidance provided to you to tell you who?
There was, not particularly for me, but there was the Book of Kells, the Kells.
Yes.
Now, that was problems, and they were given a number. If they were going to be problems that cropped up again, probably, this is only my understanding of it, they were given a number, and rather than somebody start from scratch trying to solve a problem, they could go to this cow and look it up, and maybe the solution was there, or they'd know where to start looking on the problem. Does that make sense?
Yes, but before you personally assigned a problem to a person, would you check the known error log?
No, that wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I don't think I'd know how to actually do a search to look for a particular problem. It wasn't for my benefit. I'd have to rely on either knowing or being told who was doing with it. And it could possibly be that it was a fault that many people in the team could sort out.
If we scroll down on this page, there's an entry from yourself. A little bit further down, thank you. Where you've changed the call summary from PM reports that he's been having phantom transactions to continual phantom transactions.
Yes.
Who would somebody have asked you to have changed the call summary? Is that something you would have done yourself?
If the call had come in with it just saying transact and stopping there, I would have probably changed it to something more sensible like that. I mean, it doesn't take technical knowledge to do that. So.
And if we go over the page, we have an entry from Patrick Carroll on the 5th of September 2001. Following a significant amount of monitoring, we've been unable to definitively link any equipment/environmental issues to any particular event. There have been incidents which showed a possible correlation between the system activity and phantom transactions. These pointed to a touchscreen problem, and as a result, the screen was replaced with a resistive model. As this product, no measurable improvement, it has been assumed that the problems were user-related. And again, this one has been marked as no fault in product. And this is a similar time period to the log that I took you to just before.
Yes.
Again, no fault in product, attributing an issue such as phantom transactions to being user-related. Does this jog any memories for you as to this being the way that these kinds of issues were resolved? Does it assist in any way?
Well, it looks like he's checked the environmental issues, which were on the other call, so that check's been done and proved okay. And the rest of it must have been whatever Pat found out when he was investigating it, so I can't really say.
I mean, you gave evidence earlier about potentially being asked on occasion to mark similar issues as no fault in product.
But obviously you wouldn't get that call come in and then immediately close it. It would have to be investigated. It was, the ones that I would close was where there was something that had happened and it was a known sort of problem that could be fixed really, really quickly or had been fixed already. and I'd be told just if that one comes in again, just close it as no fault in product. But on the whole, it was the technicians would investigate every call first.
And when you would be told to mark something as no fault in product, was there a particular level of engineer that was required to authorise that, or could that have been any of the engineers?
It could be any of the technicians, or the manager, anybody except me that was investigating the calls could do that. The person who'd been dealing with it usually.
Thank you very much, Ms Longley. I don't have any further questions. Is there anything that you would like to say to the Chair, or anything that you feel is of assistance to the inquiry?
Sorry, I missed that. We cut out for a few seconds.
But before we're cut off for the second time, is there anything that you would like to say or raise that you feel is of relevance to the inquiry that I haven't addressed?
I don't think so. I mean, I can't remember everything that happened because it was so long ago, between sort of 17 and 20 something odd years ago. So I just tried my best to answer the bits and pieces of the calls that do ring a bell with me.
Thank you. Sir, do you have any questions?
No, thank you very much. Are there any questions from call participants?
No.
No.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mrs Longley, for giving evidence to the inquiry and trying your best to remember what occurred. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Bye.
So we'll adjourn until tomorrow morning, yes, Mr Blake?
Yes, thank you.
All right, then 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.